Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you all for being here with us. We are very excited. Student Employment Services as well as Bayan is very excited to bring to you a panel of Filipinx, Filipino-American professionals who are ready to share with you their journeys and hear from you all as to how their culture and their identity shows up for them at work. Crystal and I are very excited to share these individuals with you. Today, we're going to go over just a brief overview, introduce you to our panelists. We'll have a curated Q&A session with our panelists that Crystal and I will facilitate. There will be a small breakout session, so you'll have an opportunity to ask specific questions to specific panelists in industries that you're particularly interested in. And then at the end, we'll close out with some last thoughts from our panelists, as well as some lessons learned from you all. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. And we'll start with Cesar. So Cesar, would you mind telling us a little bit about who, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that you all can see our panelists rather than just their pictures. So I would like, if you guys don't mind, share with us your name, your title, and just a little bit of background about who you are and your career journey. And I'll start off with Cesar.
I think I better unmute myself first. Thank you, Jen. Well, thank you all for being here today. And sometimes I don't like to start, but I'm going to start today. So my name is Cesar Escuro. I am currently the interim chief probation officer of the San Diego County Probation Department. I'm just a normal person. I just happen to have the title of chief. And so I grew up in San Diego, in a national city. But even before that, let me share with you my overall history. So I was born in the Philippines and immigrated to the United States at the age of 5. And when I got to the United States, I had no idea of the English language. Didn't speak a word of English. Interesting story. I've told this story before, but when I first started first grade, I didn't even know my real name. Because as a Filipino, I had a nickname. And so my entire family called me by this nickname. So it was a surprise, of course, that I had a real name. But getting back to just me, I grew up in National City. I was educated in National City schools and then went to San Diego State University for my undergrad. Shortly after that, I got a job with the San Diego County Probation Department and worked there for about 3 years, and then decided, I think I'm gonna go to law school. So I left the county. I went to law school at the University of Oklahoma. I chose the University of Oklahoma because it wasn't in San Diego, because I did everything in San Diego and decided, I'm gonna go to the University of Oklahoma. It's a good law school. And they gave me the biggest scholarship. So I went there. Talk about a culture shock. I was a first-year law student and was one of only 2 Filipinos in the entire law school. And so luckily for me, they were really open and curious about me and the Filipino culture. So I had a great experience there. Came back to San Diego, took the bar, passed, and was working for a law firm that had some marketing components to it. Shortly thereafter, I decided to go back to the San Diego County Probation Department and kind of ply my trade there. And so I told myself, I'm gonna only give this 2 years. Guys, it's been a consecutive 22 years since I returned to the county. So I love my job. the best part about my job right now in the space that I'm in as the chief is talking to you all. Is really getting the next group of Filipinos prepared to lead. So I am really, really honored. Genesis, thank you for inviting me here today. But let's hear about the other panelists.
Awesome. Liezel, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Liezel Lucina. I am originally from LA. That's where I grew up, or at least the suburbs of LA. And I came to San Diego because of college. So I'm an alumnus of UCSD, class of 07, 2007. And it took me 5 years to get my degree in a bachelor's degree in computer science from UCSD. And I am currently the senior software engineer at a company called PMAT, which stands for Programs Management, Analytics, and Technology. And so just a little bit about PMAT. We are a DoD, Department of Defense contracting company. So we work a lot with the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard, which there's a lot of military here in San Diego. And so there are a lot of jobs in this field. And I'm trying to think, what else? So yeah, I declared computer science, or actually computer engineering, when I was a senior, filling out my my applications to college, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but it was actually recommended to me by my older sister, who I looked up to, and so that's how I got started, and I kept with it. But I guess other questions that are on this list I'll expand on that possibly later on. But yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Liezel. Melinda, do you want to go next?
Sure. So it's interesting to hear both of your backgrounds because I find like similarities there. Cesar, I was also born in the Philippines, came here when I was 5, grew up in San Diego, also did not know English when I first got here. And my dad knew English really well, but he was always at work. I did have some older cousins who taught me the bad things, but the majority of how I learned English was actually watching a lot of TV and just, picking it up in general. Like I remember not having very many friends in kindergarten because I went to a public school. I didn't speak to anyone. And as soon as I would come home, turn on Nickelodeon, turn on anything that would immerse me into, the American culture and teach me English. It wasn't until I went to Catholic school where I started to feel a little bit more comfortable because I knew English at that point. I met Crystal. We've been friends since 2nd grade. Went through that whole entire elementary school all the way through 8th or 9th grade. Obviously grew up very Catholic since that's the Filipino thing to do. But, the entire time I was, kind of just figuring my way out around what am I interested in. When it came to school, same thing, like that was kind of decided for me because my parents didn't want me to apply to anywhere outside of San Diego. So applied to USD, SDSU, got into UCSD and went there because my sister was already going there. Me and Crystal went to different high schools, but we actually went back, caught up with each other at UCSD, and she graduated in 4, I graduated in 5 years like you, Liezel. Took an extra year and I double majored in communications and visual arts because to me, that entertainment thing always stuck with me in the back of my mind. I don't know if it was just, because that was like where I kind of found like my American version of myself and learned my language and everything. But the other thing about that too was it always bothered me growing up that the representation wasn't there. So that was something that always stuck with me throughout college too, was the fact that access just wasn't there for a lot of, not only Asian Americans, but Filipinos specifically. Like you'd see them here and there, usually background characters, Rufio and Hook, things like that, but that's it, right? Ernie Reyes and Ninja Turtles, that's it. Like I could count them on my hand. And now it's so amazing to see that that's completely different. And I've somehow managed to find my way back to that, because even though I've worked at a lot of different companies over the years, where I am currently now at the Walt Disney Company, I'm able to do that. I'm able to kind of lead the charge on a lot of different D&I initiatives. I'm able to have influence and control in how I, present candidates to my hiring leaders and to my partners and to just people in general at my company. And I kind of finally found that voice to be able to, speak from my perspective and from my unique background. So I'm fortunate that I'm in that position now, and I can continue to, build off of the credibility I've established there. And I'm really excited to be here and share all of that information with you all, because it wasn't a straight path. I don't think anyone's had a straight path in their careers, especially, growing up with Filipino parents who want you to go one way, even if you want to go a completely different way. That was my situation the entire time, even to the point now where my parents are still like, they don't know exactly what I do every day, but, they're proud of me regardless, because, I can take care of myself, and I'm at a company that they understand what it is. I don't have to explain to them, oh, we do this, we do that. So now they kind of get it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Happy to share a little bit more when we do our little breakout sessions.
Thank you, Melinda.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jeff Martinez. I am a senior production artist at DC Comics, and I feel it's a little interesting with Melinda. Like, we have two almost like not conflicting, but like we're basically the Pepsi and Coke within the entertainment industry and everything like that. So this is very interesting. And so hi guys, and so I want to thank, first of all, Genesis for inviting me over here for this paneling and everything like that. So I'll try my best to keep my words down as much, but I tend to I like to tell stories a little bit and tell my experience within my journey, I guess, through this life to this point and everything like that. So well, maybe Marvel and DC are the Pepsi and Coke within the comic industry and everything like that. But since Walt Disney owns Marvel, we will get into that another time. So my education started off. I went to a community college at Southwestern College, and then I went to SDSU. And after that, I wasn't sure where I was going in life, if anything, because as a lot of you guys have explained, it's been a little. Our paths are not set, and there are a lot of forks in the road, and depending on yourself on what you want to do, it'll lead you to different areas and everything like that. So, I'm trying to keep this minimal, if anything, but I guess my experience with just going through the journey, I guess, was when I was young, because just like Cesar and Melinda, I was born in the Philippines, and I was naturalized here when I was a young age. So I didn't know Tagalog, if anything like that, because I think I was maybe 1 or 2 years old, and the language wasn't set yet. So I grew up here in San Diego when I was super young, and I didn't know as far as what being Filipino was, if anything like that, because I was here at such a young age. So I was kind of sort of integrated and naturalized within San Diego, California, when my dad was in the Navy and everything like that. So my experience was a little bit different, but obviously it's very similar from hearing your guys' stories as far as with growing up with, I guess, parents are a little strict, and they want you to do a particular profession and everything like that. And obviously when I'm a teenager, you kind of figure out what you want to do. And how I got into my profession, or what I got me interested in it, was literally comic books. I remember reading them as a little kid, and I remember in high school, or maybe in junior high, I think more specifically, I had a friend, he was slanging some comic books. He was like, hey, you read comic books? And I was like, I haven't read a comic book since I was like a little kid. So I don't know what comic books are now, like within like, you know, early 90s and stuff. And so I popped open a book, and obviously at the time, like, you know, I wasn't sure what was going on. Like, I was like, oh, okay, you know, because comic books in the 90s are way different than was like back in the golden era, if anything like that. And it was a Spider-Man book. That was the first comic book I popped open, and lo and behold, Todd McFarlane was the artist on that. And I was blown away by the art style in that comic book. And so that got me into like comics again. Like, I was like, wow, this like the art is so different. Like I don't understand like it's so different than what I knew as a kid. And then like learning further down the road in the 90s, especially with for those of you that collect comic books, or even in the 90s, like that was pretty much the hot era as far as like with all these breakout artists that came out. So I got exposed to like Asian artists and stuff like that, like Jim Lee and everything like that. If you guys know who Jim Lee is, Tom McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, and then I got exposed to Whilce Portacio. And if you guys don't know who Whilce Portacio is, he's a Filipino comic book artist. He's been in the industry for a long time, since the 90s. He's done, you know, yeah, X-Men, his own characters, the Wetworks and everything like that, and currently still in the comic book industry and everything like that. And I got exposed to so many like other, you know, I got exposed to so many, I'm looking at the messages here at the same time. So yeah, I got exposed to like, you know, like people that are in that industry, and even more specifically with Whilce, because he's Filipino. I was like, wow, there's a Filipino, a guy that looks like me in the industry doing this for a living. Like, so that kind of inspired me even more to maybe like push, I guess. But obviously my parents didn't like it, because, you know, it's you know, it's not sustainable I mean, you know, parents are being parents, right? They just think of they just want to make sure their child is taken care of. They're, you know, whatever, they're going to be sustainable as far as like within, you know, in the world, if anything like that. You know, can you make a living out of this? And you know, I can definitely get into more detail with that if you want, but I will keep it short here with that. So, but you know, other than that, yeah, that kind of drove me a little bit within my journey to where I'm at today with DC Comics. So yeah, so other than that, I hope I did a proper introduction, so I'm not gonna take too much time. So there you go.
You did great. One thing that I kind of want to drive home today is with this particular panel of speakers is how interconnected our community is, and how you will come across people in your paths and they will help you and be there for you to support you in your journey. All four of these panelists are individuals who I have come across in my life, who have been there and held a very special place in my heart and my life. And I'm so happy to share them all with you today. Melinda and I worked as career advisors at the Art Institute in Los Angeles together many moons ago. So she knows exactly the kind of work that I do. Liezel went to UCSD, and I was at San Diego State, and our Filipino organization, similar to Bayan, were very close, and that's how we became connected and became good friends. Jeff, it was my kuya with A.B. Samahan at San Diego State. So he has been a lot, and Cesar is my cousin, and he's known me since I was a little girl. So what's important for me to share with you all is this network is important, and this network of community. Yes, representation matters, but your connections that you build along the way, you will be surprised how you will uplift and support each other along the way. With that said, we've touched a little bit upon this idea already. And so I'd love to hear maybe one or two panelists share with us a little bit about how being Filipino-American impacted your career decisions. I think Melinda shared a little bit about this. You want to take this on or start us off on this one?
Sure. So, like I said, when I was in college, I wasn't quite sure exactly what to do. Even I just had like this vague idea that like I wanted to be involved in the entertainment side of things, because I always had that in the back of my mind that, that's where I feel like I can make a difference, because that's not where I see myself or people like me. So when I graduated from college, I moved up to LA, because obviously that's where you work in entertainment. And I found myself in production studios and just interacting with all types of weird Hollywood folks that did not really resonate with me. I mean, it's a very male dominated industry, very white dominated industry. And this is like in the early, 2000s. So things were very different back then. And I could definitely feel that there was a lot of toxicity in that type of environment. So I spent maybe 2 or 3 years working as, on the operations side of like post-production studios, audio studios, things like that, where I was kind of indirectly interfacing with these folks, but they gave me enough of an understanding of that industry to know that, okay, being on the production side of things is probably not like, my cup of tea. And then I got more curious about the business side of it, because I figured, maybe that's a little bit more my speed in terms of like structure and like, professionalism even. So I ended up at Mattel actually after that, because at the time they were trying to stand up a entertainment marketing group. So it still had entertainment in it, marketing, which was like a little bit more creative. And then it was within a big corporation. So I was like, okay, maybe this is more, something that's like the right fit. And I did like it there. I was there for almost 4 years. And I realized that the way to kind of move up in that company is to get an advanced degree. So I got my MBA while I was there. But then when I got to the point of like about to graduate, ready to move up, move on, I got blocked in my career by my current boss at the time, who was a VP and wanted to keep me where I was. And, when I was in school, he was supportive the entire time. But when it came time to me to actually grow and develop, he wanted to keep me there where I was, stagnant. And that didn't sit right with me, especially since I did the work. I performed, I thought I was due. And it really came to a point where I was just like, am I going to choose myself, or am I going to just stay here and let somebody determine my path for me? And that's when I actually turned to career advisors, over there in my MBA program. And they advised me, what is it that you want to get into? What is it that you've, originally started out to do in your career? And I was really at this crossroads where, I just couldn't take the criticism anymore and like, being stagnant. And I quit my job before I lined up something else. And I just figured, let me finish out grad school and then I'll find something from there. And that's where I kind of fell into Art Institute, which is where I met Geniza through there. She was a career advisor. And I went in there in this new, full disclosure, in LA, you don't want to drive in traffic. And I was driving from the Valley to like the LAX area, and that was slowly killing me too. So I was looking for, where can I walk to to work and not have to drive? And they had opened up a new Art Institute like down the street from my apartment at that time. So I literally just walked in there and I was like, what are you guys doing? I saw you guys just like, open shop. Are there any opportunities here? That's literally how I fell into recruiting. And the career development person that was in charge of the career development area, she was just like, you know what? We have, career services positions in my department, and I don't have anyone on my team that's actually like gone, done the journey themselves. Like these are all students that are studying art, production, creative, marketing, and you've done that already. So I would love to have somebody on my team like you that can, advise them on their journey and help them navigate that. And that's essentially how I fell into recruiting. Fast forward, I leveraged those relationships that I built while I was a career advisor, found other opportunities from there based on the people that I interacted with, helping students find jobs. And I continued down the path with recruiting because I found it to be aligned with what I was looking for. I'm giving people opportunities. I'm helping people get to that next step in their careers. And I'm able to kind of influence them in a way that, no one influenced me really, in terms of my career path and my career journey. So, it's true what Genesis says. I mean, you got to keep those networks, because you never know when those networks will think about you later on down the line. I got into Disney because of somebody that I worked with at an agency right after I worked at Art Institute. And he just, happened to, call me when his team was growing, remembered me, and was like, hey, come over here, like we're doing something great. So, and that's how I ended up there. I didn't have to do the whole application thing. Like I went straight through my network, and I had been trying to get into Disney for a long time before that. And it wasn't until I had a friend or, somebody in my network opened that door for me and walked me right in. So, and I've been there ever since. So 6 years later, I'm still here. I'm still doing different things.
Beautiful, beautiful. Jeff, when we talk about success, I've been with you for a lot of your journey in college also. So what did success look like for you while you were in school? And now what does it look like for you now?
Success so during college, success at the time was just, I mean, I'm very minimal with what I say here. And success for me, what that back then was just like keeping my parents off my back. Really, just that's success for me. Like as long as they left me alone, let me do whatever I wanted to do, then that was success for me at the time. Because again, my path wasn't written out for me fully. Like I couldn't see it, and it was covered in a lot of dirt, and I couldn't, I didn't have a, I didn't have the Filipino sweeper to sweep it out, so I can see it. So for me, it was just minimal thing, just being a teenager, or just a young teenager, if anything, just going to college and just having fun, if anything. And I feel that that's kind of important too. I mean, I know that having a career and knowing what you want to do in life is important, but at the same time, learning how to live is important too. Like, there's just work is work, but like, having free time and spending time with friends and everything like that, that's just as important, and family too, just as important, if anything like that. So it'll help strengthen the bonds within your friends and family too, if you want to you want to you just want to live, anything like that. So college at the time, that was what I was thinking. I just wanted to have fun, not crazy fun, but just I wanted to enjoy stuff that I liked, like again, like drawing. Like I like to draw a lot. When I was at San Diego State, actually when I was at Southwestern College, I talked to I didn't know where I was going either, right? So I talked to a counselor there, Arlie Ricasa. I believe she's Filipino, I think. So I talked to her, and she gave me advice as far as like, what do you like? What do you want to study, and like that. And I go, I like art, but like I don't know what else to do. Like, I think I signed up like as a fine art major, and like I didn't know that dealt with more like art history and like more fancy stuff. And I was like, that wasn't really my thing. I appreciate it, but not really my thing. And Arlie is, oh, okay, cool, awesome. She's still there. Tell her I said hi. So she said, oh, well, what about graphic design? Like I go, well, what's graphic design? And she had to explain it to me. And I was like, oh, that looks like fun. So let me do that. And so within my Southwestern College journey, I started graphic design. And then I transferred over to San Diego State, and I studied over there. And it's at the time, like, you try to fit that in. College at the time was just me just learning what I wanted to learn, doing what I wanted to do. That was fun for me, if anything like that. And and of course, hanging with my fellow friends in Filipinos, especially with the clubs, Pagkakaisa at SDS at Southwestern College, and then Samahan at San Diego State. And then currently right now, success to me right now is, I guess, like, once you have a dream for yourself, whatever it is, it's always important to make another dream. Like once you complete that dream, then you make another dream, like that, like just your next goal, if anything, maybe not dream, but maybe a goal, right? Just like, okay, so, and make it like, it's okay to shoot really high. That's fine. But at the same time, for the rest of us, we have to work really hard. So make yourself like maybe just micro goals, if anything, like if not just like where you want to be in life. It's like, oh, today, all right, so what's the ultimate goal? Like, whatever, being an artist, right? So what's micro steps I can do to elevate me into succeeding where I want to be in life, in that dream, if anything like that, in that goal. And it could be as small as like, okay, so artist, so maybe I'll just sketch in my sketchbook for like at least 5 minutes, like every day. Those are just little micro steps, if anything like that. And then like, next thing you know, you're accumulating all this like knowledge, experience, and skill, and you're combining your talent too with that too. And I feel like, yeah, that's important. So that's what I'm doing right now in life. So just setting myself goal after goal after goal, if anything like that. Like I'm not stopping, if anything like that. Yes, there's going to be some hurdles. Yes, there's going to be some trials and tribulations and challenges in life and everything like that. It's going to happen. That's just part of life. It's going to happen, and it's how you overcome it and how you take from it. And that's how you get experience, from learning from those challenges. And if you make mistakes, that's fine. Mistakes happen. As long as you learn from those mistakes, that's what counts as far as like you growing as an individual. It's like, as long as you learn from that, then you can push on. So yeah, that's my ideal for my interpretation of success, college as to current day right now. So
yeah. Love it. Liezel, as a woman, in particular, Filipino-American woman in what seems to be a male-dominated field, like computer science, computer engineering, I wonder, I'd love to hear your thoughts on imposter syndrome, maybe feelings of not sure, like that feeling that maybe you don't measure up, and then how do you navigate that? And also, what has been your experience in asking for help to reach your goals? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So my experience in college, it was pretty difficult my first year or two. I didn't have any, so I'm a software engineer, so it pretty much means I'm a programmer. I didn't have any experience with that before coming into college. And so my high school didn't have any programming classes. So my first year, it was just really hard, like for the intermediate or like the beginning programming classes. I couldn't even like copy like a document and have it compile. And so it was really hard for me. And I even had times where I thought about changing my my major. And also in these classes, I would be like one of maybe 5 females in the whole class, maybe even less. And so it was very intimidating. And then the whole imposter syndrome, I definitely felt that just by not being able to like pick things up right away, or just being intimidated by all the males in my classroom, and not having that like, I couldn't really interact with them as much. I don't know, I just had, it was partially because of me and being intimidated, but also just, I guess, the culture of people in my major or my industry. So that kept going on, and I found that my success was actually graduating with this degree and claiming that I did it. But I still feel somewhat of the imposter syndrome in my field as a senior software engineer, just because it's very technical. It's still male dominated. All of my coworkers are, at least in that are not like program management type of thing, are male. So just the interaction there is could be hard. And so the way I would go about it is I would tell myself, this is pretty like simple, but fake it till you make it. So just, I would try and exude the confidence, even though in the inside there's some doubts, but each step that I was able to conquer or like move along in my career, it just helped me and like give me a little confidence boost. And so I would just keep telling myself, fake it till you make it. And as far as seeking out help, I'm a very introverted type of person and self-governing. But there has been times where like in college, there was a Society of Women Engineers group that I would go to events. And so I can see other people or talk to other people that are in my field that are women. Seeing things like, I think it's called like Girls Who Code as a nonprofit organization, that just gives me pride. And to see that's available nowadays, I think where we're at now, it's getting better. But as far as reaching out, I think the main thing is just us having a support group, even if it's not like being able to talk about like where I am specifically in my career or technical things. It's just the types of connections that I made specifically in my college years have helped me out a lot right now. And so I can bounce things off people that are part of my group, my support group, and their feedback just helps me be more secure with myself and be more confident about the work I do and about where I'm at in my life. So I think, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Liezel. Cesar, so you are in a very high profile role right now. And recognizing that your Filipino identity isn't something that you get to turn off, right? It's obvious in who you are. Can you talk a little bit about how being Filipino-American shows up for you at work, whether those are barriers or stigmas or even community and culture that is a benefit, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thanks, Genesis. Let me start off with this. Because all the panelists are friends of Genesis in one way or the other, you guys now are family. And I say that because this group of, let's see, 32 people on this call right now should be known as family. And so as the chief probation officer of the county, it's very interesting because somebody had to tell me this. They said, hey, Cesar, do you know that you're the first ever Filipino-American chief probation officer in San Diego County? And I had to step back a little bit because when we do our jobs or when we are who we are, we're just who we are. We are Filipino. And so sometimes that gives me pause to say, wow, is that a good thing? And now have we broken the barrier? Because as I went through college, there was, like you guys all said, there was very little representation, whether it be in the media or in the workplace. There was nobody in higher levels that looked like me or us. So I think we're in a situation like right now where we can use our culture as an impetus to kind of grow, all of us. And so interestingly enough, I did a presentation just this past Tuesday with the Board of Supervisors and talk about a lot of stress, because not only do I feel that I'm representing the probation department as the chief, but I'm representing Filipinos across the county. So when you talk about a little bit of pressure, that's the pressure that I put on myself because of the position that I'm in as the first Filipino-American probation officer, chief probation officer. And I want to do a good job because of everybody coming behind me. I'm hoping that makes sense. Interestingly enough, when I went to law school in Oklahoma, my dad said, hey, when you go to Oklahoma, and you're probably going to be one of very few Filipinos there, He said, not only are you representing yourself and our family, but you're representing Filipinos everywhere. And I said, huh? Like, I'm just trying to get out of law school. But he mentioned this to me. It's because for those that have never come across a Filipino before, you're the first one. And so when they see that you work hard, that you come early and you stay late, and that you do well, then in their minds, they're gonna probably think, well, you know what? I went to law school with a guy named Cesar. He was Filipino. He worked hard and he was a good person. And so that sets the tone for them for the next person, Filipino. So it is. Thank you for reminding me, Genesis, that I'm in a high profile spot. Sometimes I don't like it. But that has been gifted to me. And I call that as a gift because, you know, it's an opportunity for me in the Filipino culture to be seen. So if we can take that as something good, and not only just for us as panelists, but for all the 30 plus people on this call, to hear that and to know that there are people out there that think and look like you that are doing it.
Thank you so much. What we're going to do now, and I appreciate you all being so open and honest and candid about your journeys and the role that your culture has played in your life. I'm going to turn it over to Crystal. We're going to go into our breakout rooms.
So for the guests and the panelists, you'll have an opportunity to have a smaller, intimate time with with one of the panelists. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for you each to have individual time with each panelist, but you'll have about 10 minutes with a panel. Feel free to ask questions, follow up on those things that may have resonated with you that, oh, they mentioned this. I want to follow up to see like more about that story. So this is your opportunity, especially for the students in the room. You have folks who are in the workplace, they're out in the community, they're doing things, and you know, they might represent something that resonates with you. So this is your opportunity to ask them those questions that you might have, whether it's regarding their education or their career or just their experience. Build that network as everybody has been talking about. So especially for my Bion students, you know, we're all about networking and you know, building that community. So we're going to open up the breakout rooms, and you'll folks will have about 10 minutes. And if you have any questions, flag us down. We'll pop into the room and assist. And all the panelists should have sharing privileges as well. So if there's share screens that you want to do, you should be able to have that. Any questions? We're good. All right, here we go. So give folks a few more seconds to come in from the breakouts. All right, I think everybody is back.
All right, so as we close out today's session, first and foremost, I want to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedule to share their journey and their expertise with us and our students. Crystal, do you want to take over here and then?
Sure. So as my students know, we always do some type of exit activity, you know, based on the topic that we discuss in that particular day. So we want to make sure that everyone in the space today has the opportunity to kind of reflect on what the panelists were sharing, the stories, the experiences, the advice, and see how they might be able to apply that within their career or their education or their personal lives. So in the chat, I'm going to put a Padlet. And if you're not familiar with Padlet, it's kind of like a digital bulletin board. You can post to the Padlet. And so what we want to know from you folks today is what were some of the takeaways that you received from the panelists today? And then why is that significant to you for your overall personal or academic or professional success? So to post to the Padlet, you just want to click on that little pink plus button at the very bottom right-hand corner. And then you can put your first name if you'd like to, and then your response in there. For my students, so that I can give you folks the credit, go ahead and just post your first name. I'll know who you are, and your response in there. You can upload a photo or a GIF, GIF. I don't know. You know, I'm not in tune with all that stuff. Mindy knows this. I'm the least like social media person within our friend group. So, and they're always giving me a hard time about it, but go ahead and post to that. Any questions, last minute thoughts, comments for the panel, or anything the panel wants to share?
Yeah, and I have one last question that I saved to the end for the panelists. If you guys want to just share one small piece of advice that you want to make sure you impart before we leave today. I'll let Liezel go first. I know she has a hard stop at 11:30, so I'll let her go first.
Sure. So I know it's daunting to have to pick like your career at this point, but what I would say is like, don't let that deter you, or don't let that stop you from just like moving forward, because things can change along the way. You can have a career change as well. So yeah, just be optimistic. And also, I'm a very big advocate of internships. So once you get there, I definitely would encourage you all to possibly try out an internship while you're still in college. That's how I got my start, and it's a way to figure out what you like and what you don't like. So yeah, thank you all for listening.
Let's go, Cesar.
Hi guys. First of all, thanks Genesis and Crystal for having us today. I did share this with the group, my breakout group, but for all of you listening right now, understand this. I know you guys are all in college and there may be a little bit of self-doubt and maybe some anxiety, but know this, know that you are enough. What you're doing right now at this point in time is enough. You're good. Life is a bunch of sequences and a bunch of experiences. This is just one, but keep on growing. Just keep on growing. You're good. You're good. So with that, you're good enough. You guys are going to continue to do great work. And if there's anything that I can do or my staff, please let us know.
Thank you. Jeff.
Hey, so yeah, just wanted to thank my audience Genesis there for inviting me over. It's been really fun talking to you guys, if anything like that. Breakout group, you guys were awesome. I know we talked more about art. We didn't talk about like identity and whatnot, but like I was at the end of the breakout group, you know, whatever you want to do in life as far as like, you know, career and everything like that, it's important too, but at the same time, you have to know yourself as well. So don't ever forget that. For all you hungry artists out there, it's what I just said right now. You stay hungry. That's how you get better in life. And that's how you get better as an artist. You stay hungry. You still want it, you know, like to this day, like, even though like, you know, I'm pro status, if anything like that, I'm still learning the tricks of the trade as far as like with all these things. You know, different styles and, you know, even with computer animation or illustration and design, and, or even just not just in art in general, just in everything in life. As long as you stay hungry for it, and as long as you want it, then, you know, you can achieve it if you want it bad enough, you know, so you just have to work hard. And right now, like, I believe, they said that like, this is a very important part in your life right now. This is college, so you're still young, so things are not set in stone yet, and you're still learning, if anything like that. And I know what that feels like, because we were all there at one point. And like Cesar said, yes, you are enough, and never forget that. And you know, never you know, question your self-worth, because you know, you know, if anything, everyone in this chat right now, like, I appreciate you guys, every single one. And whatever endeavors you have in life in your future selves, I wholeheartedly extend my, you know, my hand out. If you guys need advice, help, if anything like that. I don't know if I'm allowed to share my social media right now,
Put it in the chat,
Yeah,
Kuya.
you can put in the chat.
Sure. Okay. I'll do
Put it
that.
on the Padlet.
But yeah, if anything, please hit me up with any questions. I'll try my best because my schedule is hectic as is, but I'll try my best to to answer your questions. If not, you can always ask Genesis for her. She can relay the message to me, and I can always share my advice in being an artist, being a Filipino-American artist in today's industry. So I'll go with that. So thank you all.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Melinda, let's wrap up with you.
All right. Well, I think for everyone here, I mean, you're in college. This is a time where you're still figuring it out. And for me at that time, it really is all about just like thinking to yourself, what is it that interests me? Like, look at what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, like if there's a social cause or, something that you want to change in the world, if it's something just like a hobby that you're super passionate about, whatever that is, you could probably make a living doing that in some kind of way. I mean, where I sit now, some of the jobs that I work on, I'm just like, people do this? Like, it's crazy. Like you can literally make a living doing anything if you're that passionate about it. So don't be afraid to go after something that may be coming out of left field, because there's a market for it somewhere. There's a job that exists for that somewhere. And if you love it that much and you're that, into it, like you can find others that are equally, passionate about it, and that would pay you to do that for a living. And when you find that thing, it's not work anymore. Like it doesn't feel like work anymore. And I think that's the ultimate goal in any career, is for what you do to not feel like work. It's to, have it be more meaningful than just a paycheck. So that's all.
Thank you so much for all of your words of advice. Panelists, feel free to save that Padlet link. You can reference back to see some of the impact that you have had in this short hour of time. Thank you so much for your time and sharing yourselves with us. Let's give our panelists a round of applause and some emojis if you think your reactions, if you'd like. Thank you all for your time. Crystal, I'll turn it back to you to close us out.
Sure. Thank you again to the panelists for gracing us with your presence, virtual as it is. Hopefully one day we can bring these things face to face again. To my students, thank you for engaging in the conversation. I hope you all have added to your connections and your networking and your social capital. And we'll debrief in class next week, Tuesday. Keep an eye out for an announcement from me. I'll send that through the Canvas. Thank you again for your participation. Let us know, are there other folks that you want to see come on board? Genesis and I are open to suggestions too. What other fields would you like to explore within the space that we have? So thank you, everyone. I know we're just about out of time. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful Thursday afternoon. And my students, we will see you later on this afternoon for the English portion of Bayan. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Kasama, anyone wants to join us on Sunday, 2 p.m., Southwestern College Performing Arts Center. Henry and I will be there in Genesis.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.